Hello, and welcome to the Be Purely Balanced podcast. I'm Dr. Crystal Couture, and today I'm here with Kellie Surdis, and we are talking about energy healing and hypnosis. Kellie is a certified Usui Reiki master teacher and a Karuna Holy Fire Reiki master teacher, teaching Reiki classes regularly. She is also a certified hypnotherapist and an advanced integrative energy therapist. As a Reiki master teacher, Kellie has trained in the direct lineage of Mrs. Takata, who brought Reiki to the United States from Japan back in the 1940s. Kellie received her hypnotherapy training through the Cape Cod Center for Whole Health. The comprehensive training included all aspects of hypnotherapy, including medical hypnosis and hypnosis for regression, emotional, and physical healing, as well as for weight loss, addiction, anxiety, depression, finding your soul's purpose, and more. Integrative Energy Therapy is a hands-on healing modality that works similar to Reiki, but also has a more spiritual level to the healing sessions. Kellie has taken numerous classes and is constantly expanding her skill set to make her a more comprehensive teacher and healer. Welcome, Kellie.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
It's such a pleasure to have you on the show today. I'm really honored that you're with us and sharing your story of energy healing.
Yes, I've been looking forward to this.
Excellent. So let's get started by learning a little bit more about you. So why don't you tell us about your sacred healing journey?
Sure. So I was in my 20s. I had a rather traditional nuclear family upbringing. I had never had any major, stress or any trauma in my life. And then when I was 26, my only sibling, who was 20 at the time, went out to dinner with his girlfriend, and they were carjacked in Providence. They were carjacked by 5 men that they did not know. And those men got in the car with them, took them to a deserted spot. They shot them both in the head, and they took their car.
Wow.
So that shifted everything for me in my life. Shifted things for my parents. Shifted things in my relationship with my husband. We had only been married for 6 months. He had married this fun-loving person and ended up with somebody who is in a deep state of sadness within 6 months of getting married. So I was working in a nonprofit sector and doing marketing for a nonprofit. And I realized that I just, for my own sanity and healing, I could not continue with that work. So it had shifted something in me that I needed to address. And I started going to counseling. Mm-hmm. And counseling turned out for me to not be a good fit. I believe that it absolutely has value and it helps so many people. However, I was going to a group grief workshop type thing, where we would go in and we would meet with other people that were grieving, that had lost loved ones. And grief is such a specific and individual thing to each person. I was finding that I was not meeting the vibration of the people that were also in the group. They were ready to, celebrate Christmas and holidays, and we were still in a deep state of shock. So a friend had suggested Reiki to me, and she said, you should try to go to Reiki. And I really didn't know that much about it. So I started going for regular Reiki sessions, and I noticed that it was really helping me. I mean, I'm condensing this story, but obviously it, like timeline wise, it took me, maybe 2 years of going and really doing some work. And the problem with what happened with my brother was not just the grief and the shock and the trauma of losing him in such a way, but it was also a continued enmeshed battle with the court system, because there was 5 people that murdered my brother and his girlfriend. There was 5 trials that we had to go through that were being dragged out for a very long time.
Oh my gosh.
So because of that, it kind of delayed, I don't want to, maybe not delayed. I believe that everybody is where they're supposed to be as they're going through their journey. But, if somebody had, I don't want to say a normal type loss, but if somebody had some type of loss where, somebody had passed away from old age or something, a couple years down the road, you would probably be in a different position than we were, where we were still being interviewed by, people for news reports. And we were being asked to go in front of the Senate and lobby for different types of bills that will help people that have been in these situations of tragic type things. So we were kind of still in a different space.
Yeah, it was constantly reactivating the trauma, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
So the Reiki began to really help me in my journey as far as healing my own self. And I found that it really raised my own consciousness, raised how I was looking at different things that had happened, helping me address acceptance. And my Reiki master that had been giving me sessions had said to me, Kellie, I'm having a Reiki class. You should come. Maybe you would enjoy, learning how to do Reiki. And I thought, geez, I never really thought of that before. So I said, okay, I'll do it. And then I was just hooked. I just saw the power that it had in my own life and how I really wanted to help other people with their type of things that they had going on, from physical pain to any type of grief or emotional trauma. And it just shifted the whole direction. So
Wow.
that's how my journey with Reiki began.
Wow. So there's so much to that. You were how old again when it happened?
I was 26.
26.
Yes.
So that's an interesting time in itself to be shifting, right?
Yes.
Yes. Many people get there later, but that's really early to sort of shift and have that pivotal moment in your life where you're called toward a healing field, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And so processing the grief in many ways seems like it gave you such a gift, in that it gave you this opportunity to step into your soul purpose as a healer and someone who shares healing.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. It's yeah, the light and the dark as they come together, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Such an interesting facet. There's always bits that are weaved in with light and dark.
Yes. One of the things that people has mentioned to me was, I can't believe that you're feeling that you're okay now. Here I am, I'm 44. But I'm okay with what happened because of my awakening, really, that I feel is so important. I wish that I could help people that don't have to go through a traumatic event. I could just, hey, say, let's just do this, and you don't have to go through a trauma, and just learn from my, life, and not have to go through this own stuff. But we all have to go through our own stuff, and unfortunately, usually it's something, I don't want to use the word negative, but it's something big. It's something that could be viewed as traumatic. Whether it's loss of job or loss of spouse, or it's usually entails some type of upheaval before we can get to the place that we need to be emotionally. So for me, I feel like it's really expanded how I think of everything, and I just wish that we could all not have to go through the yuck to get to the glory.
I was having a conversation with a client yesterday, and they were talking about how sometimes it feels like that the trauma is like that 2x4, right? Coming over the head. And I spent some time thinking about it, journaling a little bit about it. And actually I thought, how many times was the universe perhaps giving this client this message? How many times was the universe giving me a message? How many times was the universe giving you a message, right? And sometimes we're not tuned in to the subtle energy.
Yes.
And I think when we're not tuned into that subtle energy, that's when the universe is like, hey, like, wake up. This path that you're on is, not it.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Like, it's okay. It's an okay path, but there's way more for you, is mostly what happens, I think, and mostly what people wake up to. So I'm always curious, especially with folks that are Reiki practitioners and sensitive to energy, which is like everyone that comes on the show is sort of sensitive to energy, right? But if there's any tips or ideas that you have for people to tune in to that subtle energy field, for people to kind of awaken through each day rather than awakening, after some type of trauma.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think this journey has brought knowledge to, and ignited in me. It's hard to say, 1, 2, 3 things. It's been so many things.
Right.
But one of the things is creating an energetic separation between other people's energy and your own energy is crucial, because sometimes we don't realize that the things that we're carrying aren't even ours, and we're giving away our power. So for me, for example, my husband and I wanted to start a family, and I was waiting because I did not want to be pregnant or in a state of trauma or stress or upset during a trial because of what was going on in my life.
Yeah.
But we waited for years. And I finally said to my husband after years, it was maybe 3.5 years in, and I said, you know what? I'm giving away all my power. I'm giving away all the power of my own self, my own desires, my own will of what we want, the vision that we want for our life, for our family, to 5 men that are in jail, and they're all behind bars. There's nothing more that I can do. And yet they're controlling me, and they're controlling our family from hundreds of miles away. So I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize is holding on to something that happened in your life, some type of regret, some type of resentment, some type of anger. Not saying that I wasn't angry. I'm not saying I wasn't resentful or whatever as I went through that process, but I was giving away my own power for what I wanted in my life because of what happened. So I said to my husband, that's it, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not giving away my power. And I was pregnant within a month. So, and then I ended up being pregnant during a trial. I kind of manifested something that I didn't want because I was feeding all this energy into something that I didn't want, which now I have really shifted my mindset to only feed what I want in my life. So that's another kind of important tip, would be only feed what you want in your life. Yes. So your thought process is so crucial to that. If you wake up in a state of fear, I don't want my son to become this, or I don't want my daughter to have to do this, and you're always feeding that don't and that fear of lack, or if financial concern is something that you're worried about, then you're waking up and feeding that. The focus really has to be on what you want. So I try to teach my clients, you fake it until you make it. So the mind-body connection is so important. And one of the things that you can do every single day is wake up and have gratitude in your heart for the things that you do have. And for anything that you feel as though you don't have, like say, for example, you're in a job that you don't like, then you would affirm to yourself something such as, I am open to receiving new opportunities wilder than my greatest imagination, a career that feeds my soul and makes me happy, an affirmation like that. So even if you're, working somewhere where you're feeling like it's not your vibrational fit, you don't want to be stuck in that vibrational negative pattern. You want to put your body and your mindset in a vibrational shift that is open to receiving more. So really getting into that flow state.
I think this is great, Kellie. As you started talking about the energetic separation and what that experience was like for you, particularly when you came into the awareness that your subconscious was essentially giving away power, right?
Yes.
You were protecting yourself, right? Of course, that's what we're always doing, is some part of us wants to protect us, right? So some part of you really wanted to protect yourself from the vulnerability of being pregnant, but also thinking about that baby, right?
Yes. Yes.
So what was that like moment for you? What was that like when you were just like, oh my gosh, I am giving away all my power? What did that feel like, that awakening?
It really felt like I had been in the dark and someone switched on a light bulb. I mean, I know everybody's probably heard that saying 100 times, but it really does feel that way when you can open your thinking to realize that you're giving away whatever happened to you from your past is giving away your current power.
Right.
It's I don't like to use the word forgiveness because I feel like the word forgiveness for so many people is a loaded word. And it comes with an expectation. When you're 5 years old, someone hits you and you say, you can't do that, say that you're sorry, or whatever. Then, the child says, I'm sorry. And we're taught to say, I'm sorry and I forgive you. But at some level, when it's something like this, for example, when someone murders a loved one, the word forgiveness is so loaded. Like, I can't forgive you, or I can't say that what you did was okay. So I like the word energetic separation. That's just my take on it, because with the word forgiveness, which we hear so much about, the forgiveness is what's going to free you. If you create an energetic separation and you just say, I'm no longer allowing you, your energy, your decisions, whatever you have done to affect me and my life, in my position, in my mindset, it shifts the way that you can adjust to that word, quote, forgiveness.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can see that shift in a big way. And I just want to cycle back a little bit more. I think it's really important that you made this note of the past having that control. And in your case, it was very specific, right? And it still was in the present because of the trials and what was happening. But in any case, anything from the past that we're spending time on or we're allowing in, even in a subtle way, that's taking energy, right? That's
Absolutely.
taking our vital life force, time and space and resources to either, one, hold it, right? Hold it somewhere in our body, well it up, whatever, or to still be active with it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's one of the things through my training that, initially I just became the Reiki master and I went through and did all that. And then as I realized, wow, there's such an important piece of the puzzle here, meaning the brain, and what we think, that I really, I found that clients were coming to me. And for example, I had one woman who was a teacher. She was entering a classroom in the middle of the school year. It was a classroom for disabled children. And all of the children had already bonded with the previous teacher. All of the parents had bonded with the previous teacher, and all of the staff had bonded with the previous teacher. So when she came in the middle of the school year, she felt as though, wow, nobody wants to listen to what I have to say or what I have to offer here, because everyone is used to this old person's method of teaching and their style. And I feel like I don't have a voice. So when she came to me for Reiki, her throat chakra was closed down. So we worked on opening it up in that session. And then the next week she went home. And the next week when she came back, her throat chakra was closed again. So I said to her, I think it's important that we actively address this chakra being closed while I'm working on your throat. I want you to give yourself an affirmation and say to yourself, when I speak, other people listen, and I find it easy and natural to communicate my thoughts and feelings effectively. And she did that. And then I said, when you go home tonight and for the next week, every night, just say that one thing to yourself before you go to sleep. And when she came back the following week, her throat chakra was open. And it was like she held on to that work that we had done in the office, because she was making a conscious effort every day to work on what we had discussed. So she came back, she said, I can't believe it. She said, I went to a meeting and I spoke up in the meeting and everybody thought I had a great idea. And it seems like the parents are really accepting me and they're warming up to me. And sometimes we block ourselves with our thoughts. So when I realized this on my own, I said, I think I need further training here. So that's when I decided to become a hypnotherapist and really embrace the power of the mind, helping the mind-body connection, get us into a space of where we really need to be each day.
I love that. And I love how the affirmation really takes someone into the present, really takes them to a place where they can perhaps still access the past if they need to, if it serves them, right? And sometimes it does, but also it reminds them of the direction where they want to go. So with that sort of balance point, they land in between, which is the now,
yes,
right?
Right, yes.
Yeah, and landing in the now is so important. So
one of the things that I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh no, you go. This is your show.
It's the universe's show. I'm just here hanging out and facilitating.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just touch before we get too much deeper. I don't know that people really know what hypnosis is. And I think there are various societal definitions of hypnosis that may or may not be correct. So if you want to just dive into what is hypnosis?
Sure, absolutely. So I think, part of us have been served a disservice when it comes to hypnosis, because we've seen on TV people dangling a pendulum in front of people's eyes and saying, you're getting very sleepy. Or they go to a stage hypnosis show where there's a hypnotherapist up on the stage and he is, making people quack like a duck. Or they forgot they have a belly button and then they're trying to find their belly button and people are saying, wow, I don't want anyone to do any mind control on me. That's mind control. And people are turned off to it.
Yes.
One of the things that hypnotherapy does is it truly only allows you to go where you want to go and where you are okay with going. So what I do is I have my clients set up whatever is their goal for themselves, and you can have multiple goals. I had, for example, one woman that was a mom. Her son was 25. He did not want to get his license. So the mother said, I want you to hypnotize my son to get his license. And I said, well, does your son want to get his license? So I spoke with the son and I said, do you want to get your license? And he said, no. I said, I can't hypnotize you to get your license if you don't want to get your license. So it has to be something that the person is willing to do. So I think people are afraid that if they go into hypnosis, that I'm going to do something to them and they're not going to remember, or it's like giving their power away or their control away. Our brains are very lazy creatures, and they like to do what they've been doing forever, how long they've been doing it. So the neurons in the brain fire in a way that is, common to them. It's repetitive. So when we create a new behavior, we have to grow a new neural pathway in our brain. So it's called neuroplasticity in the brain, and they're doing so much research on that right now. But we want to create a new behavior, or a new thought, or a new action, or a new method of thinking. So we're going to just create a new neural pathway in the brain. That's what hypnosis is. So, for example, when you and I are walking around every day right now, we're only using about 25% of our brain. So if you think of all the things that you do when you're multitasking, you know, you're driving the car, you're talking to your child in the back seat, you're thinking about work or whatever, you're making dinner while you're doing math problems with your child, you know, your brain is doing a lot of things. And the fact that it's only 25% efficient or effective when we're doing all these things is pretty incredible. So the average person is able to raise the efficiency of their brain just by physically relaxing their body, closing their eyes, and decreasing a visual stimulus. We're able to increase the efficiency of our brain up to about 95 to 98% when we do that. So, yes, which is so important for people to just take time out during the day.
That's big.
That is big. So for example, you know, every day people enter into a state of hypnosis without them probably even realizing what it is. So there are all different levels of thought. There's an alpha level, a beta level, all these different levels that our brain waves measure a different frequency, a hertz frequency. So when you're in a meeting or you're at school and you're like, oh, wow, I really don't want to be here. I'm thinking about, you know, going to see my family or my friends, or, you know, I'm thinking about my grocery list. You're thinking something else, and you're kind of taking a mental vacation from the space that you're in at the present moment. That daydream is hypnosis. It's a form of hypnosis. So it's just taking your mind and putting your mind into a different state when your physical body is somewhere else. Or you can just, there's all different styles. It's even almost like a meditation. You can just focus on your breath. There's so many different ways to get there.
So in essence, hypnosis is, from a clinical perspective, hypnosis is really assisting people with getting into a state of more clarity, the alpha state, perhaps?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's very clear. I really appreciate the way that you describe this, because I very often do think that people get the wrong idea, and I've never heard hypnosis described in the way you described it. So I really appreciate that, and I really appreciate this opportunity for people to take in the idea of help to facilitate that alpha state. Because, you know, so many people say, I know I should meditate. I know I should get my brain quiet. I know I should spend more time, right? And very often the advice to folks is just that with more practice, you're able to do it more, because of course you are building more neural pathways, right? But sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes that practice isn't enough. So it's really nice to hear that someone who's a hypnotherapist can be there to support people that perhaps have more difficulty getting to that alpha state on their own, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I think a lot of times one of the things that we are our own worst enemy, and that we will criticize ourselves and we'll say, okay, I'm trying to meditate. Okay, here comes a thought. Oh, I'm doing it wrong. And then you give up.
Yeah.
So one of the things I tell my clients when they're in the chair is, listen, our brains are supposed to work. That's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to think. And it's trying to make your brain stop thinking. You can't criticize yourself for that. Just become in a state of acceptance and allow it to flow through you. Yes. Address and say, right now, I'm taking a time out, personal time out for myself, and I will address that, but I'm going to address it later. One of the things that happens is, you know, we create an anxious state or a state of, you know, upheaval in our life when we're thinking about things in the past that have happened, or things that in the future that we have to do. Yes. So if you're a person before bed who is planning your day, and hey, being a planner is fantastic. But if you're laying in bed and you're saying, oh my goodness, tomorrow I have to get up at 6, I have to do da, 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 and you're thinking of all the things that you have to do, and then you try to go to sleep. Your brain is working all night long on all of those things that you thought about before you were going to sleep. So the subconscious mind is most imprintable in the first 45 minutes as we're drifting off to sleep. So if you're laying there and your eyes are closed and you're saying, geez, I saw so-and-so today and I said something that I wish I didn't say, and then you start judging yourself or criticizing yourself. Then you wake up, your brain is thinking about that all night long. And then the next morning you wake up and you're wondering why you don't feel rested or you don't have energy. Your brain has been working on all that negativity that you fed it before you went to sleep. One of the things I tell people is shut off the TV in the bedroom before you go to bed. If you're somebody who falls asleep listening to the nightly news, we all know that news can be negative. It's hard to find happy news. And so you're waking up in the morning with a bleak mindset. So I'm getting a little bit off, the beaten path of what we're talking about, but it's just so critical to keep your brain in a state where you're thinking about positive things that you want in your life, so that you don't get stuck in the future or with the anxiety of the future or the heartache of the past. Being present in the current moment and making whatever choices is appropriate for yourself right now in that moment without the stress of future thinking or past thinking.
Absolutely. What would you say is the most special part about being a healer and working with clients the way you do?
I would say seeing the personal transformation of the client is such a gift, to be able to help the person facilitate that in their own life, shifting their lives in a way that they didn't think was possible. I never take credit for that. People will say, oh my goodness, you helped me so much. You helped me fill in the blank. And I'll say, I was just kind of there. You were open and your mind was open and you were willing. So I just kind of like opened the door and they did all their own work. So I had a gentleman that I actually did a remote session with. He had Alzheimer's. He was in Florida. I saw his brother in my office for insomnia. And he was in a nursing home in Florida. He had Alzheimer's and he was a flight risk. He was from England and he would always try to walk home to England from Florida.
Oh, gosh.
Yes. So his wife, obviously in her 80s, she couldn't keep him from leaving. So they had to put him into a nursing home to try to keep him contained so that he wouldn't keep trying to walk home to England.
Wow.
So she said, the brother who lived up here said, do you think you can help him? And I said, if he's open, I think we can do whatever he's open to. I think we can, transform for him.
Yeah.
So one of the problems that he had through his whole entire life was severe claustrophobia. When he was a child and he was in England, they were going through the war and there was bombings and his house was bombed. He had no roof. And the father built this tunnel in the ground and he had the children go sleep in the ground every night for their own safety.
Wow.
Right. So then as this man progressed through his life and he had this severe claustrophobia, every person that he went to see, every counselor, everyone told him A, that he had to get over it, and B, that he needed medication. So this was part of the thing that was going on with him. So he would be combative if someone would shut the door or whatnot. So the things that we worked on in our session were his memory improving and his fear of claustrophobia. So what we did is we did a regression where we went back to that time and space when he was a child. And we cleared the negative impact that had on him in his life and reinforced positive things like you are safe, you are okay. different affirmations. And what happened was he listened to the recording. I tell people, listen once a day if you can before night, because, before bed, because we're all busy people, right? But because he was in a state where he was in this nursing home, he was listening 4 times a day, 5 times a day. He saw so much progress that he was able to leave the nursing home. He was able to go back and live at home with his wife. He was no longer a flight risk. He no longer had claustrophobia. And he got on a plane and flew all the way up here and thanked me. And he cried. And I was so happy for this man. Like, it was just such a gift to me to be able to help him with this healing. And, he went to his doctors. And the doctor said, listen, when you get Alzheimer's, you get on this scale where they rate you a number. And the numbers are always going down. Like you're losing cognitive function. You're losing this, you're losing that. The doctor said to him, I've never seen any numbers go up once somebody's been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. What's your secret? And he said, I've been listening to a little meditation. But, I thought that was lovely because he was able to get to a spot. And his wife was so thrilled that she had her husband home again. And so when you say what's the best gift, I guess, about being a healer, is being able to really transform people's lives for whatever, time that they have, to be open to a new style of thinking and really releasing them from any type of prison that they've, been in.
What a special story. And, in many cases, I think people will probably qualify that as one of those healing miracles, right? But knowing the brain, knowing about the plasticity of the brain, why would we give up when someone has a diagnosis like Alzheimer's? Why would we give up and just go to that place where it gets impossible, rather than trying to connect with that person, rather than trying to see what's there and peel away the layers a little bit and allow that person to do the inner work that they need to do? Like, there's so much hope in this story for everyone. It's not just a one-time shot. I'm sure of it, because research now shows, and this, neuroplasticity is keeps advancing as we age, right? We're still
Yes.
new pathways over and over and over again. So that means that, perhaps we can't cure Alzheimer's, but that there's hope that the grasp that it has on those who we love, is a little bit less.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So, wow. I'm so touched by that, and also so inspired by that. And I'm certain that our listeners will be as well. I guess the last question I have is, do you have anything that you feel like is sort of, any teaching that you feel like is coming through today, that's really important for you to share with our listeners?
I think one of the things that I feel is so important is for each of us to find the truth that resonates within ourselves, and to share that truth in a way that you feel is fit, but also to be accepting of others and their truth, whatever their truth is. One of the things that causes us, feelings of, I can't really think of the word I'm looking for. One of the things that causes stress in our life is not being able to see people or meet people for the stage that they're in, or accept people for the stage that they're in. Yes. And so much of the journey, I think, is us being ready and being open. Sometimes a seed has to be planted now for an awakening or a mind shift 2 years from now. It has to be something that we all take our own, time to get there. But being able to meet people where they're at and say, I can love you and appreciate you for wherever stage you're at, even if I don't agree with some of the decisions that you make. from, one soul to another soul. Um, our insides are the same. Our soul is the same. So to be able to honor another soul for wherever they're at on their journey and appreciate that we all have different lessons that we have to learn. And I think this helps, relationships with, say parents that maybe you didn't have the best mom or the best dad, um, or perhaps a spouse that you feel failed you. Realizing that everybody is where they're at because we're all journeying. We're all journeying, but everyone's journey is different. So being able to find your own truth and say, you know what, this is what works for me. And I've decided that, this, and this doesn't work for me anymore, whether it's, if you're somebody that's always a people pleaser or, constantly expending your energy in ways to make everyone else happy and then not making yourself a priority. Things like that. As far as finding what your truth is and being able to allow yourself to be open to that and not be fearful of judgment for that, whatever your truth is. And likewise doing the same. I think that's how we can all, when we all work on our own stuff. We all have our own stuff and it's constantly evolving. Energy work, and all of this work I really say is like peeling the layers of an onion. So we feel like we've fixed A, B, and C, but guess what? There's still a whole, D, E, F, G, H, all the other letters of the alphabet that we need to, work on and get ourselves, progressing and moving forward. But we can raise the vibration of the planet. We can raise the conscious level of the planet by each of us working on our own stuff, being able to accept our own self, being able to accept others, living in your own truth and accepting others for whatever truth is their truth. And it's really, being non-judgmental. And I think one of the things that a lot of us do is by nature, we're taught that, from when we're little and it's taught to us, this is okay, this isn't okay. Whatever that is, coloring inside the lines is okay, coloring outside the lines is not okay. I think back to my son, he switched schools and he was in one school where he had this art teacher. And the art teacher, everything that he did, the art teacher said to him, wow, Tyler, that's amazing. I really appreciate what you did here with the color. And then he switched schools and he went to a new school and he came home and I said to him, how was school today? And he said, well, Mom, I don't really like this school. I said, why? He said, my art teacher told me that she didn't like the size of my sun that I put in my painting and that it needed to be bigger. And I thought, here he is, this little child, and what a lesson that I can learn from him. Who can judge the size of your sun? Let's all make our own sun. Yeah, it's like, why would you say that his son isn't big enough? I mean, I didn't send a letter or anything like that to the teacher, but I just thought, what we say to our children, how we teach our children what's okay and what's not okay, what's acceptable and what's not acceptable is so powerful. In hypnosis, one of the things that we do is we train the brain for the things that we want. But as a parent, what do we say to our children all the time? We say negative things. We'll say, don't go in the living room with your drink. Don't spill your drink on the carpet. Don't, no. Instead of, whatever we may want instead, please drink your drink in the kitchen. So, that it stays in one spot or whatever, fill in the blank. But, that mindset, that training of our children is what's going to help us, move the planet in a direction of positivity and acceptance.
I absolutely agree. And I also think it's important to just note that for those of us that aren't children anymore, to sort of go back and say, that's a promise that I can break. I don't have to color inside the lines anymore if I don't want to.
Right.
And being okay with sort of breaking that promise to yourself that you'd always color in the lines, right?
Yes.
Because while it might have served it at one time, it's probably not serving now.
Yes.
Yeah.
When we become rigid in thinking, we limit our growth.
Yes, exactly. So, Kellie, how would people get in touch with you? Tell us about where you're located and what you're doing there.
Sure. So I have the Healing Tree Wellness Center is my center. It's in Middleborough, Mass. We're in a first floor building for anybody that has any type of issue with physical pain. We don't have any stairs or anything. We're right off the parking lot. We have a nice parking lot. We're at 217 Center Street in Middleborough. I have a website, which is www.healingtreema.com. And you can reach out through us on that website, or you could call me at 774-259-4211. We have monthly classes on essential oils. I teach Reiki every single month, different levels, Reiki 1, Reiki 2, Reiki 3. We're constantly adding different and new classes all the time. You could check the website for any type of upcoming workshops and things that we have coming up.
Great. Well, Kellie, this has been quite a journey today. I feel like this podcast was really a journey through your experience, your own sort of trauma, which you've turned into this really robust base for knowledge and this really robust foundation. And it seems that foundation was imperative to you finding your truth and you being with your truth. And that's obviously what's led you to have the wisdom to accept the truth in others. So this was a true pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. And I think, a lot of people will say, geez, I don't know if I should try this or I don't know if I should try that when it comes to healing modalities. But I feel like each healer is bringing their own healing journey to whomever that they work with vibrationally. So it's wonderful to be able to have all these different opportunities to heal with different healers or different types of healing. I don't do sound healing, but for example, a sound healer or an acupuncturist or whatever it is, I think that we can get the body and the mind to progress in ways that are very ancient and sacred, and a lot of people have lost sight of in recent years of medicine.
Yeah, coming home.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Kellie.
Thank you for having me.